when you want to be something, when you want to grow, when you want to evolve, one thing I've realized is that um, you kind of separate yourself from all the noise naturally. You either choose to separate yourself from noise, or something, um, you're like your soul just naturally does it for you. Um, I mean, I've seen that myself. Like, when there's new seasons coming into your life, there's a shift that happens in the frequency, um, to the people you're around, and all those things. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not nothing negative. It's nothing wrong with you. It's actually just a shift, and it's for the better. And it's not like a permanent thing. Um, you know, when you start changing, when you start having clarity towards where you want to go and where you're trying to build for yourself, and hear this, and I'm gonna emphasize on the word yourself, because you know, for a lot of people, their whole life they live for others. They try to make others happy, and make their career shine before themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their place and everybody has their thing. But when something in your soul is telling you, hey, there's something more for me out there, I don't want to be just this person. Um, Something happens, and there's a shift that happens, and either it happens now or it happens later in the future, but it's going to happen where there's going to be a shift where you're going to start separating yourself from a lot of noise. You're not going to recognize the same home you used to be in. Things are going to be different. The things that you used to be so okay with start becoming draining, start becoming exhausting. And after that, you start losing that spark you had in that place you were before. And once that starts happening, that's when you start going through this like confusion. You start asking your questions like, who am I? Why am I losing the plot? Why am I losing momentum? Why am I losing this? It feels like everything starts falling apart all at once, and you don't know why. And that is kind of like that transition to the unknown, and not just the unknown. It's like the transition to focus into yourself, a journey to yourself. Honestly, you know what? Let me go get my charger. I'll be right back. Yeah. So I was saying, yeah, you're gonna go through that chapter. That chapter, I call it chapters. It could be called seasons, but it's gonna be a season where you're like, I need to build something for myself. I need to um I need to really lock in with myself. And it's like, yeah, like in a nutshell, everything starts falling apart. Everything that you've built for yourself, every momentum that you had, everything that you loved and you were attached to, and all the validation and all those things, they start falling apart one by one by one. And then you start wondering what the hell is going on. And eventually you'll get to a point where you're just confused, angry, and sometimes you might try to hold on to the past. You might try to hold on to things that are no longer resonating with you. And you'll quickly realize that those things do not stick anymore. They get you exhausted, and there's so much, and it's not even just you, it's the people around you. You start feeling the suspense. You start feeling like, man, they probably know that I'm not real, my spark is not there, and then people start separating themselves from you naturally too. It's like I said, it's a frequency thing behind the closed door. Like behind all the surface level things, a frequency shift, And I don't like saying those big words and sounding like some ooh, but you gotta understand, like, there's something way bigger than just the surface level of things, And I'm not gonna try to go on a whole tangent and a whole journey on that, but there is a something in this growth in that, But that's gonna happen, or in some way it's gonna happen. Not everybody's the same. Everybody has their own kind of journey, but I'm just talking about mine, and a lot of people go through the same kind of thing. So hopefully somebody who hears this, they'll kind of resonate with it in a way. or learn something from it. Um, but yeah, that happens. And that is called, you know, first of all, it's just called an identity shift. Like you start changing, you start growing, you're evolving, first of all. And it's also the law of rhythm, you know. There's a time to reap and there's a time to sow. There's a season to reap and there's a season to sow. You can't do both at the same time. And I'm gonna keep saying that because it's so important to understand that, you know. We find ourselves trying to do both at the same times, you know, trying to do both. But there's a time for each thing, and you have to be patient. And that's where the law of rhythm comes in, where it's like, okay, I had my peak moment, and then there's gonna be a time where it's gonna go down. But you know how stocks happen, right? Stocks, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But if you look at the bigger picture from it, it's going on an upward trajectory, you know? Um, and I'm gonna go more into detail, because a lot of people would say, okay, yeah, cool, but stocks can also go down and down, down and fall and just go flatline, right? But there's something behind that metaphor that is very important, a specific detail, and that's intention, Um, and hopefully I'm not going all over the place, but I want to get this point across. But you know, when you fall down, when you lose momentum, when you lose yourself, you lose yourself. You don't really lose yourself. You're just rebuilding yourself. It's gonna be a moment of silence, a moment of just a blank page. Like I said, you lose momentum. You lose people around you that you used to resonate with. You lose opportunities for some reason. And it's like a lot of things start happening at once, right? And you'll find yourself at this place where it's just silence. It's just you and yourself and what you want for yourself. But sometimes when we're in that state, we're grieving, we're sad, we feel lonely, we feel all these emotions. Um, I'm gonna record this as well. Give me a second. I'm gonna record this because if this video does not record, then I'm gonna have to just do a voice recording. It is what it is. Just to get straight to the point, when you go down, when you fall, you want to fall forwards. You never want to fall backwards. What does falling forwards mean? It means falling by trying, falling with intention, falling um, by doing something, by trying something, you know. But falling behind is like running away from the world, running away from your emotions, running away from how you feel, and running away from what you need to know, what you need to see, what you need to hear. That's the truth, you know. Um, that's the difference between the upward trajectory and the downward trajectory, and then the flat line. It's like when you're like at that moment of just silence and everything is blank and you're at a blank page, and which is a blessing. There's gonna be a choice, and that choice is like, do I want to keep trying? Do I want to keep going towards that light, towards who I am, and find myself again? And there's the other side of that flip coin where it's you just don't want to face anything no more. You just want to stay in the grief. You want to stay in that state, that state of just angry, confused, and all that, you know. But what you have to understand is that when you're in that place where there's like silence and just a blank page, it's a gift. It really is a gift, and it's a gift that's been given to you. And sometimes you'll notice it. This doesn't happen only once. This happens multiple times in life where there's going to be a moment of just silence, and it's just you and where you want to go, you know? And you have to make that choice where it's like, do I want to build something with this, or do I want to distract myself with my emotions and lose this opportunity to build something, you know? Um, because like I said, some people actually never realize that they're in that state. They're in that place because they don't want to sit with themselves, and they don't want to sit with the silence. They don't want to be in the unknown for a bit. even though that's one of the biggest gifts that can be given to them. Um, you know, hopefully I've been clear so far. I don't want this video to be too long because I don't know if it's gonna record everything. I have like no space on my computer. Um, but that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of just my soul has been just shifting into just building for myself, building a foundation. That could be completely different for you. It could be for somebody else. You might be wanting to make a clothing brand. You might be wanting to create, um, you want to, an app or anything like a business for yourself, or you want to travel. You want to spend more time with your family. You want to just something that means something to you, that will make you fulfilled, that is true and honest to you. That what it is. That's what the blank page, the silence gives you the opportunity to do. Don't run away from that, man. Don't run away from that and think it's a bad thing. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Yes, it's hard. Yes, we're human. We're gonna feel lonely. We're gonna feel frustrated. We're gonna feel confused. But one thing I've heard is like through the pain is where growth really is. Through the pain is where you really find yourself. Really. It's like, and it's hard to believe that because it's like, why would I want to feel pain? Why do I want to go through this? I don't want to have to go through this. But it's honestly one of the most important ways to evolve, man. There's no evolving when you don't go through any type of pain or any type of adversity. You'll never know what's wrong if you don't have any problem. And for me, there's a lot of things I have to look in within myself that I'm still having to face. And sometimes that takes time. And one thing I also want to talk about is that, it's very hard to communicate that to the people around you for business and all that stuff. It's very hard, because a lot of people aren't going to understand you. A lot of people are going to feel like you're letting them go. They're going to feel like you're switching up on them. You're changing. You're different. You're MIA. You're all types of things. And the more you try to explain it, the more you're wasting your energy. Doing this for yourself is helping everybody around you without you even knowing. It's one of those things where you connect the dots looking backwards and you're like, oh, now I understand why all this makes sense. Because, for example, me, by building this thing, I know that when I come back, I can actually be more, how can I say this? More independent, first of all, and I can help my people in ways that I could have never, or we could have never done. You know, ways that are just way above. And it's like, how can you do that if you're just afraid to disappoint people? Well, how could you do that if you're afraid of that? You'll just stay there and you'll never know where you could go and how you could evolve. And either way, why would you want to stay in a place that is conflicting with you, that is draining your energy? Because you feel it. You feel it. But the only thing that's holding on is the fear of loss, the fear of disappointment, and the fear of all that. But it's that one, if there's that feeling of just, you're not in it. You're not feeling it. You don't want to be there. So it's this clash and it's just exhausting, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now in this journey, in this season where I'm just been building and thinking long term, thinking about legacy, thinking about family, thinking about how I can find myself and be the better version of myself, which is now, not in the future, and also going through the motions, going through the waves of emotions. I'm not saying I'm a robot. Hell no. This journey right here is, you have to be strong, man. You have to be strong. If not, you'll just what's it called? You'll just surrender to the noise and go back to the comfort. and go back to what's familiar and it's safe. Nothing that is great out here was made with safety. It came with risk, it came with unknown, it came with doubt, it came with fear, it came with all those things, man. It came with all those things. It came with people seeing them as as a supervillain. It came with people seeing them as the bad person at first, and then when everything turns around, oh man, he's a miracle. Focus on your life, man. Focus on what makes you happy. Focus on what makes you fulfilled. Focus on your personal treasure, because that is the only thing that matters in this life, bro. At the end of the day, you're not going to. Nobody's dying with you. Nobody's going to the grave with you. Nobody, no hater is gonna be following you to the end of to your grave. No objects is gonna come with you. Money, cars, yachts, all those things, they're not coming with you. So what is the real reason? What's the real meaning? What's the real meaning? It's love, bro. And what is love? We think love is only just loving somebody. No, love is what it's like. It's an energy. It's a frequency of. It could be being able to see my mom smile because I'm able to um, help her travel around the world, give her mom a house, take care of my little brother. Um, and by the way, this is mine. This is for me. This is what makes me. This is what make me happy. Help my dad and grow his legacy, his business, and being able to make music for the rest of my life without worrying about, is this gonna pay rent next month? Those little like those things. You know that that is something I want for myself. I want to be able to wake up one day and just be like, hey, let's go to the studio. Or I'm in the studio. I wake up at the studio and my friends are pulling over and we do an all nighter at the studio. We make music. We don't care about what kind of music we're making because we don't care. Because we just make music because it's an expression. And then indirectly, we start making hits. You know what I'm saying? We start making hit songs. And then life changes from there. And, you know, that's what makes me happy. It could be different for anybody, you know. It could be different for anybody. Yours could be completely different from mine, but it brings a warmth to your heart. It brings um, a warmth, a sense of peace there. Even though don't chase peace, peace is always here. But like when you think about it, you feel it. So that's like in the moment, right? Um, yeah. And one thing I just want to emphasize as well is never chase money. Never make money your god. Use it only as a frequency, as a tool, a tool for options, a tool of energy in a way. So yeah, hopefully I wasn't all over the place. I'm this is just like I'm just going through the top of my head right now and just saying whatever was kind of going on right now so far. I'll probably get more in depth, more detail as I go. But yeah, trust that, man. Trust yourself throughout this season. And I'm talking to myself, and if anybody's listening to this, trust yourself while you're going through this season, or if you're ever going through that kind of like that silence or that moment of shift where you don't relate to people no more, or not relate, or you just don't resonate with that old environment you were in. It's not like forever, or it can be forever, or it doesn't matter. It's just like, you know, trust that you will get through that. Trust that you'll know how to navigate through that because you understand the law of rhythm. You know, you understand there's a season to sow and a season to reap. But maybe the other way around. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. That's one of my first videos, and yeah, take care.